Welcome to the kingdom. The Humble King Podcast, where real kings speak with purpose. We level up only, let's go hop it. Go hop it. Go hop it. Go hop it.
Fear is one of the strongest emotions human beings experience. Fear can control decisions, destroy confidence, create anxiety, and convince people to stay trapped inside situations they have already outgrown mentally. Fear affects dreams, relationships, opportunities, purpose, and faith itself. Everybody experiences fear at some point in life. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of losing people, fear of the future, fear of not being enough, fear of uncertainty. Fear appears in different forms, but the result is often the same. It creates hesitation. It creates doubt. It makes people question themselves constantly until they feel mentally stuck. But faith works differently. Faith does not always remove fear instantly. Faith gives people the strength to continue despite fear. That is an important difference. A lot of people think faith means never feeling scared or uncertain. But even strong people experience fear sometimes. The difference is that faith allows them to keep moving forward anyway. Faith creates stability during uncertainty. Life is unpredictable. There will always be moments where people do not fully understand what is happening. There will always be seasons where the future feels unclear. Human beings naturally want control because control creates temporary comfort. But life does not always give complete certainty. Sometimes people pray for answers and still experience waiting. Sometimes people work hard and still experience setbacks. Sometimes people try their best and still experience confusion. That is where faith becomes important. Faith means trusting even when complete understanding has not arrived yet. And trust is difficult during painful seasons. A lot of people struggle spiritually when life becomes heavy because they expect life to always make sense immediately. When disappointment happens, they begin questioning everything. They question purpose. They question direction. They question whether their prayers matter. But difficult seasons do not always mean abandonment. Sometimes difficult seasons are preparation. Preparation for maturity, preparation for wisdom, preparation for growth. Pain often changes people deeply. Hard moments reveal emotional weaknesses, habits, fears, and insecurities that easier seasons never expose. That is why pressure can become part of development instead of destruction. Faith changes how people carry pressure. Without faith, pressure often creates panic. People feel completely alone emotionally. They feel hopeless because they believe every difficult situation is permanent. But faith creates perspective. Perspective reminds people that difficult seasons do not last forever. It reminds people that growth often happens during uncomfortable moments. It reminds people that setbacks are temporary even when emotions feel overwhelming. Faith teaches patience. Patience is difficult because human beings naturally want immediate answers. They want immediate healing, immediate success, immediate clarity, immediate change. But meaningful growth rarely happens instantly. Healing takes time, wisdom takes time, emotional maturity takes time, spiritual growth takes time. That is why waiting seasons exist. Waiting seasons test trust. They reveal whether faith is dependent only on good circumstances or whether faith remains steady even during uncertainty. It is easy to believe when everything feels easy. It becomes harder when life feels confusing. But difficult moments often strengthen faith more deeply than comfortable moments ever could, because comfort rarely forces reflection. Pain forces people to think differently. It forces them to confront emotions honestly. It forces them to recognize how fragile life can feel sometimes. And during those moments, many people begin realizing how much they truly need peace internally. Real peace does not always come from circumstances becoming perfect. Real peace often comes from trusting that difficult moments are not the end of the story. That mindset changes everything emotionally. Instead of becoming consumed entirely by fear, people begin learning how to move forward despite uncertainty. They begin understanding that fear does not have to control identity permanently. Fear speaks loudly. Faith speaks calmly. Fear tells people to quit. Faith tells people to continue. Fear focuses on worst-case scenarios. Faith focuses on possibility, purpose, and growth. That does not mean life suddenly becomes easy. Challenges still exist. Pressure still exists. Emotional struggles still exist. But faith changes the way people respond to those struggles internally. And response matters. A person completely controlled by fear often avoids growth. They avoid opportunities, avoid healing, avoid risks, and avoid change because fear convinces them staying comfortable is safer. But comfort is not always growth. Sometimes growth requires stepping into unfamiliar situations while trusting that things can improve over time. That takes courage, and courage is deeply connected to faith. Courage does not mean somebody never feels afraid. Courage means they continue moving despite fear. That is real strength. A lot of people think strong individuals never struggle emotionally. But some of the strongest people are simply people who kept believing during seasons where life felt extremely heavy. They prayed while struggling. They trusted while confused. They continued while exhausted. That is faith in action. Faith is not only words. Faith is endurance. Faith is consistency. Faith is continuing to believe even when emotions feel unstable. And emotional instability happens to everybody sometimes. Human beings experience doubt. They experience frustration. They experience disappointment. That does not automatically mean somebody has weak faith. It means they are human. The important thing is not staying trapped permanently in hopelessness, because hopelessness destroys motivation slowly. When people lose hope, discipline weakens, purpose weakens, direction weakens. Everything begins feeling pointless emotionally. That is why hope matters so much spiritually. Hope reminds people that life can improve. Hope reminds people that pain is temporary. Hope reminds people that growth is still possible. And faith keeps hope alive during difficult seasons. One of the most powerful things about faith is that it allows people to keep moving even before visible results appear. That requires trust beyond emotions, because emotions change constantly. Some days people feel spiritually strong. Some days they feel emotionally exhausted. Some days they feel motivated. Some days they feel discouraged. But faith is deeper than temporary feelings. Faith is commitment. Faith is trust. Faith is perseverance. And perseverance changes people over time. People who continue praying during hard seasons develop deeper emotional resilience. People who continue trusting during uncertainty develop stronger patience. People who continue believing during setbacks develop stronger character. That growth becomes part of identity. Faith also creates humility. Humility reminds people that they do not control everything in life. It reminds them that strength is not only about personal ability, but also about spiritual grounding, wisdom, and perspective. Without humility, fear often grows stronger because people try to carry every burden alone emotionally. But faith reminds people they are not meant to carry everything alone. That realization creates peace internally. Not perfect peace every second, not a life without struggle, but peace strong enough to continue despite struggle. And continuing matters. Because difficult seasons eventually end. Pain eventually changes. Growth eventually becomes visible. Nothing stays exactly the same forever. That is why faith over fear matters so deeply. Fear keeps people trapped emotionally. Faith helps people move forward spiritually. Fear focuses on limitations. Faith focuses on possibility. Fear creates paralysis. Faith creates endurance. And endurance creates strength over time. At the end of the day, faith is not about pretending life never hurts. Faith is about believing there is still purpose, growth, and hope even during painful seasons. That mindset changes everything. Because eventually people realize that fear may exist, but fear does not have to control their future permanently. Faith becomes stronger than fear when people continue moving forward despite uncertainty. And that is the lesson behind faith over fear. Not becoming fearless overnight. Not pretending emotions do not exist, but choosing trust over panic. Choosing hope over hopelessness. Choosing growth over staying trapped emotionally. Because faith gives people the strength to keep going even when life feels uncertain. And sometimes continuing forward one step at a time is already proof that faith is working inside you.
Welcome to the kingdom. outcasts, who real kings speak with purpose. We level up only, let's go hop it. Go hop it, go hop it, go hop it, go hop it, go.